Good afternoon, everyone.
Good to see you, Dean. Dean, this is Judge Kim Frost. Oh, you guys have met each other.
My name is Mark Wojcik. I'm a professor at the John Marshall Law School and vice president of Scribes, the American Society of Legal Writers, for our first CLE program of this kind. We're so grateful to all of you for being here today. This is really a great honor to host Scribes at this event. I'd like to thank Dean John Corkery, who's over there, and he's been a longtime supporter of Scribes, for allowing this to go forward. We also are joined by Associate Dean Anthony Nedwicki, who is a former director of our Lawyering Exposed program. Justice Peg Broussard, who's another dean here at the school from the Illinois Appellate Court. Julie Spanbauer, a legal writing professor, now an associate dean as well, will be joining us later. And Kim Chen-Bong-Tin, the director of our writing program. If you need something during the day, ask one of us or ask one of the students. Students, if you're in the room, raise your hand so people can see you. So if you need something like, hey, I can't sign on to the Wi-Fi or something, like ask a student. They know how to do this. Or they'll find another student who knows the answer. So like that. If you need CLE credit, be sure to sign in and sign out at the desk in front. If there is some sort of emergency, there's exits here, there. There's life vests under your seat, probably, in case of a water landing. And it's just really a great pleasure to have you here. This is the Arthur Goldberg courtroom. Justice Goldberg was a professor at John Marshall before he joined the U.S. Supreme Court. He then stepped down from the U.S. Supreme Court a few years later to be a U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. But it's a very distinguished courtroom. It was inaugurated by Justice Antonin Scalia, who came and gave the speech to open this. And Justice Scalia was a member of Scribes. He received a Lifetime Achievement Award, just like Judge Posner and Judge Easterbrook will receive later today in the ceremony. And we just remember him fondly, and all of our members who are supportive of legal writing and all that goes in together. It's now my great honor to introduce, I believe for the first time in this capacity, that you're being introduced formally like this. And that's why I wanted to do this, because you just get up and talk and people don't, we don't get the big drum roll, the big round of applause. Mike Hyman, Justice Mike Hyman, is a justice on the Illinois Appellate Court. He's a former president of the Chicago Bar Association. He's a former president of the Illinois Judges Association. He's a former president of the Jewish Judges of Illinois. He's a former president of the Decalogue Society. Probably
someday I'll be former President of Scribes.
Someday he'll be former president of Scribes. But right now he is president of Scribes. And then his very first introduction as president of Scribes, please welcome Justice Mike Hyman.
Professor Wojcik to give you a fantastic introduction. And I also want to thank Dean Corkery. The facilities are terrific, and we really appreciate all the help we've received from John Marshall. I think we're meeting at a very propitious time, because as of this morning, the Chicago Cubs are 8-1, and the White Sox are 7-2. And the last time that these teams had records like that this early in the season, they both went to the World Series. And that was in 1906. And in the 1906 series, the Cubs and the Sox played each other, crosstown rivals. And I won't tell you who won because it may disappoint some people. But one of the great things I've seen is that a sign that said, "This year is next year." So for Cub fans, I think we're finally going to see something great. So it seemed to me that lawyers are to language what vandals are to public restrooms. And it's because of that I believe Scribes came into existence. And I thought I could just give you a little history about what we do. But this is the commercial. It's 5 minutes. I'll go through it. But Scribes was founded in 1951 by Chief Justice Vanderbilt of New Jersey. And he, with some like-minded people, wanted a national organization that would concentrate on good writing. And since this is the name they created, Scribes, the American Society of Writers and Legal Subjects, which is a very long title for legal writing. I mean, I think it can be edited. And Joe Kimball, you could do a great job of editing down probably to one word.
I did.
Yeah, strike the rest of it. But that's the title, and that's what we've been known as. Right now, I think we have around 2,000 members, and they're lawyers and judges and law professors and deans and legal editors from all around the country. We have a wonderful executive director, and Jamie Baker. Will you please stand? We're really fortunate to have David. He's a professor at Texas Tech University of Law in Lubbock, Texas. And what we do is we do a lot of different things. One is we publish a journal, which is a collector's item. These journals have articles about legal writing. I just can't wait till they come out every year. And one of our more prominent issues had to do with interviews by Brian Gardner of many of the Supreme Court justices about legal writing. It's a terrific issue. We also, and it's in your packet, we have a newsletter which comes out periodically, and it's produced here at John Marshall by Professor Collins, and we're very appreciative of that. It's all done by email. And on a periodic basis, we send out tips on legal writing. This one came out today, so it's fresh off the press. And it's Internet Research Tip number 77. So you missed the 76 ones before it. But there's all these topics. It's been coming out for years. This one is citing Internet sites.
By internet.
Yes. Yeah, and put it all together, and it's terrific. Really, one of the great things we do. We also have a brief writing competition that looks at briefs that have been submitted in moot court competitions that have won from around the country, and we give the school and the students who are judged the best brief an award. We have a book award that we're going to be giving this afternoon to the best legal scholarship book published the year before. We have Lifetime Achievement Awards. This afternoon we're giving Lifetime Achievement Awards to Richard Posner and Frank Easterbrook. And we also have a National Order of Scribes, which is for law students in their senior year that stand out as far as legal writing is concerned. And we're also developing, hopefully in the next year or two, have chapters at law schools where, like the Bar Association chapter, a local chapter, where we get lawyers and it's law students involved in legal writing concepts. We also have a website, which is always being rebuilt, but looks pretty good right now. Good. Thank you. And I want to also thank all the speakers and the moderators who did all the hard work getting everybody together. So enjoy the afternoon, and I hope everyone will stay for the reception this afternoon, which promises to be very interesting, with Will Haygood is here, and he's the winner of our book award for a book on Thurgood Marshall that just came out 5 months ago and has really garnered a lot of notoriety. He's the individual who wrote the book The Butler, and he wrote the story about the butler that appeared in the Washington Post and then became a movie. I talked to Mr. Haygood, and he said that the day that article came out, he received calls from 9 movie studios on that very day. So it was a hot property. And actually, just tell one other story, he said he got the idea, he came up with this idea about doing that after he had just traveled with Barack Obama in 2008 as he toured the country to run for president. And he had been in Florida, and he came, I think it was Florida, and he came out of a meeting with Obama, and he saw 2 or 3 white girls crying. And he went up to them and said, "Why are they crying?" Because their parents were mad that I think that what he said is they were upset about him, about the fact that their parents were upset about Obama. But they wanted to see Obama as president. And he knew at that time that Obama could really change this country and would win. And then from that idea, he talked to his editor, and before the election, before he was sworn in, a week before is when he wrote the story about the butler. So, in any event, thank you very much.